Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm excited to welcome back to the show Chip's Enuff, and he's going to talk all about his upcoming solo album due out in a few weeks, Perfectly Imperfect. Chip will also shed a little bit of light on what the touring plans are for Enuff's Enuff in 2022. It's always fun talking with Chip. This is a great episode, so let's jump in and let's get started. Well, first, Chip, let me start off by congratulating you. Your forthcoming release, Perfectly Imperfect, newest album coming out, solo album. What keeps you motivated 30 plus years in? This is what, like your 20-something album? What keeps you motivated to keep putting out new music all the time like this?
That's what we're built to do. If I could quote the great Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
If you're built to do this, go out and do it. If you're not, you all get it. It's not the longest career. It's not illustrious. There's going to be a lot of hiccups and plenty of peaks and valleys, but the landscape keeps it going for me. I'm not here to change the world. I'm just here to write songs, and I have plenty of them. And it's only fitting that I get a chance to go out and find great players to participate with me and put these songs out there and see where they land.
Yep. So, you just said talking about the songwriting. Do you approach songwriting for a solo album any different than when you do Enuff's Enuff albums?
Not really. It's usually, I'm inspired by quite a few things, to be honest with you. In this day and age, it's pretty, life is pretty challenging more than ever right now.
Isn't that the truth?
A lot of stuff comes up in the middle of the night. It's probably the most prolific time for me. Yep. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Very quiet, just sitting on the couch with my kitty cats, Truly and Amos, boy and girl, beautiful kitty cats too. They're very good.
That's awesome.
They do like attention. I will tell you that. That's
right,
okay.
Right. All pets do, right?
Yeah. Well, don't we all?
Right. That's true. We all do.
Yeah. And I just usually I'll have a guitar in my lap and just tinkering around playing. Like all my favorite rock stars are like that. They got a guitar with them most of the day. I don't have it most of the day, but a lot of the time I do. And it appears if you look at our catalog and discography, we've been pretty prolific.
Absolutely.
In the last couple of years, in late 2020, we put out Brainwashed Generation. 2021, we put out the Beatles rock show.
Yep.
Well, it's actually called Hard Rock Night.
Yep.
The solo record now, and then along with this new album that's coming out in a couple of months. So 4 records in less than 2 years. I would say that's pretty stringent when it comes to writing and putting records out. It's almost overwhelming, and not counting the records that I've produced in the last year as well. I just produced the Midnight Devils on Pavement Records.
Yep.
Just the record's coming out any day now, along with Steve Ramone. I produced his record as well. Yep. So I think that's what keeps me going is staying busy. I love making music, and like most musicians do, and I have an opportunity to make records every single year and then go out and tour on them. So I would consider that a win-win.
Well, without a doubt, and no doubt this pandemic time, the last couple of years, you've kept yourself very busy, like you just said. What makes you decide at this point to do a solo album instead of Enuff's Enuff album?
Good question, because they're both pretty much the same. Except the solo records, I'm doing a little bit more on my own. I don't have the great musicianship I have in Enuff's Enuff with Tony Fennell and Tori Stoff-Reagan and Daniel Benjamin Hill. Mm-hmm. However, I did on this album, on this solo record, I went and got Dax Nielsen on half the record, and I thought I should get my guy Dan, Benjamin Hill on that album because he's not only he's a six-trick pony. You know, he's very good arranger. He's got wonderful orchestration parts. Plays keyboards and synthesizer, Mellotron, all that stuff. And I thought that'd be important to have him on there too because he'd set a different tone for the record. But for the most part, it's just me and the guitar on these songs. I come up with some ideas. I listen. I watch what's going on in the world. And if you look at the record, it's pretty self-explanatory on how I see the world through my purple-colored glasses. And it's not, it's one of those records where it's melodic and it feels good to me. But there's definitely a little darkness to this album here, and I embraced it instead of in the past where I go, I'm just going to write songs about nice things. Good stuff that's happening around us. I took a different chance on this one. I went with it and without any handcuffs or anything to hold me back from my thoughts on how I feel about what's happening in the world.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you're bringing all that up. But let's start with what I think to me is a positive song, right? And one that certainly Enough's Enough fans were probably a little bit aware of if you're a big enough fan. That's Heaven in a Bottle, which was the first single, right? So that was previously demoed by Enough's Enough. What made you decide, hey, this is the time, I'm going to release this, I'm going to put on my solo album?
It just felt good. And Heaven in a Bottle, it could be about a bunch of different things. I never like to let the audience know what the songs are about through my eyes, because what one person might think the song is about, another person might have the total opposite opinion. But it's a nice pop song at the end of the day. Show them all my influences, and I really believe that it's a strong track. I wasn't trying to write anything for radio. Those songs in the old days that Donnie and I wrote were about everyday experiences that we were going through that perhaps the audience went through as well. And that was no different on this record. The only difference on this track compared to what I did a long time ago was I arranged it a little bit differently, had a couple of different parts in there. But for the most part, it was a bashed out pop song. And I feel that's very, very strong for the record. I'm not so sure that I thought that would be a single, but then all the songs, that's how I am about it. Right. You just don't know who's going to embrace what, but they shot a video for it here, a company called Jaffe Films, and with Kate Catalina. She was the star in the video.
Yep.
I thought it was great driving around my old 1957 Porsche Speedster. Stephen Adler bought me on my birthday.
Yep.
Around the Blue Island area. And the song just took on a life of its own, to be honest with you. And I'm grateful that the label put it out there. It's already got 65,000 hits in the first couple of weeks. I thought that was great that people have embraced that song, and it's a nice little pop tune at the end of the day. But I think the rest of the record gets a little deeper into what's happening in the world right now.
Oh, without a doubt. And so you mentioned before that you wrote this with Donnie years ago. Do you have to pick up the phone and call him and say, "Hey, Donnie, I'm thinking of releasing this song," or do you just do it on your own?
I just did it on my own. It didn't bother him. He's still working on a solo record. He gets credit for it.
Yep.
I make sure, God bless us, if anything happens, we got a movie or a soundtrack, a TV show, a commercial with it, he'll see Chippy Poos just like I would. And I think that's great.
Yep.
Keeping both of our names out there. And I thought it was a nice gesture. I did talk to him a few months ago when we maybe about 5 months ago when we shot that single for Party Time.
Yep.
Single on his record, and I also not only shot the video, but I play on the track too. But it's usually I got a message the other day. Actually, he called me and he says, "Chip's enough," and then he hung up and he asked me.
That's
so
it.
I guess he was just letting me know he's still alive, and I know I have nothing but good things to say. I hope his record does well, and this is another conduit to what we've done throughout our illustrious career.
Yep. And like you said, you were with him on Party Time, and now on your album, you have Welcome to the Party, which I think was just released as a lyric video the last 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that track. I got that was the one I thought would be the first single. And it just so happens to come out right at a time where we're going through some challenging moments over in Europe. And the song just, it fits the landscape of what's happening in the world right now. And it to a T.
So now you were saying before about some of the darker elements of the album, and to me, when I'm listening to the songs and I look at the titles of the songs, one that jumped out at me instantly was Heroin, right? Which, as we know, some of your ex-bandmates, Derek Fergo, God bless him, rest in peace, right, passed away. But was that some of the influence of that song, or what were you thinking when writing a song like Heroin? Because I know in the past you've said you're not big on the drugs, pot yes, but not big on drugs, right?
Well, I don't do them myself, but I'm fascinated by them. There's not about that. They've been around my life forever. And thank goodness, as my grandpa would say, I'm lucky enough to not get into them. Mm-hmm. But I like what they bring to the party. I enjoy the stories. I enjoy hearing artists talk about what it does to them and what it brings to their life, mm-hmm. outside of just getting high. It's the most metaphysical drug there is out there. Once you play with it a little bit, it just doesn't want to go away. I do know that. Mm-hmm. But I felt that was a song that would be well embraced, because while I was out on the Live in Quarantine tour last year with Faster Pussycat and Enough's Enough, a lot of fans were asking about that tune because it was on the Greatest Hits record. Right. And I said, why don't I just redo it and put some drums on there, call Dax Nielsen to come down, play on it, and just show a different side of that song, because the first version we did of it was more kind of an acoustic version and no drums, not a lot of instrumentation. I thought I'm going to play around with it a little bit and see where I come up with it. And I think it's a nice addition to the record. It's a nice little pop song, and it deals with all the little things that go on during those moments in life. And quite a few people can relate to that song. Maybe I can't as much, even though I wrote it, mm-hmm. as much as the average person out there who has danced around with Mr. Brownstone. My thoughts are the songs are songs, and I want to get them out there. I want people to hear them, and that was no exception on this one. It's really nice. Like I said, they have Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick playing drums out, because he's got a wonderful sense of balance on the drums. But I think that my vocal on there and some of the little guitars I put on it helped elevate it to what's happening in the world today.
Yeah. So now let me ask you, you mentioned your vocal, right? So, in the past, obviously you weren't the lead vocalist, but you've taken that on the last, whatever it is, like 5 years or so. Do you feel you're getting more and more comfortable, more and more confident with being the lead vocalist? I know in the past when I've spoke with you, you're like, yeah, I'm no Donnie or whatever. And you've been like a little bit almost like apologetic for your song, for your vocals. You feel more confident now?
I feel good about it. I've really watched my intake when it comes to smoke. I've been very good about that. Obviously I'm not a big drinker or anything, and I still party with the fans all night, all the time. It's just I'm watching what I do. Right. And I've been fronting Enough's Enough for about 8 years. Really.
Is it 8 years? Wow. Okay. I thought it was like 5 or 6. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it took a little while to find my footing, but the fans have spoken. I've played with the biggest bands in the world, touring around the country, and everybody's given us a thumbs up and patting us on the back, and they've embraced it. And, the past was the past, and the present is what we are at right now. And I look at it as when I mentioned this before in interviews, and I'll say it again, when Peter Gabriel left Genesis, Phil Collins took over. Yeah. It's the only, I think we're the only band where that's happened. Usually, singers go out, Stone Temple Pilots, Styx,
they find somebody new.
Yeah, Journey, they all go out and get other cats, which is great because they're all fabulous. Agreed. I just said, Donnie basically is the one who told me. He says, if you're going to go out and continue moving forward with the name, you should sing the songs, at least the fans will know it's Enough's Enough. And I listened to him, and good advice. Agreed.
Now, before you mentioned Mr. Brownstone in relationship to the song Heroin, you've got Steven Adler on one song on the album. You've played with him in the past, Adler's Appetite. What was it like? And you lived with him, I think, for a number of years as well, right? So what was it like reconnecting and recording with him again?
Well, that track is back in the old days when he lived at the house here in 2012, 2013. It was fantastic. I probably have a whole album and a half of maybe 2 albums worth of material if I wanted Steven, because he lived here in Blue Island with me, right, at my house. And every day I'd have sessions here. So I would have musicians would walk through, and Steven, very, very open-minded cat, just very, very kind, and loves people. Yep. So he'd come out of the back room here in my crib in Blue Island, and he's talked to the musicians. And I think they really embraced that, having, oh, they got the guy from Guns N' Roses living here. And it was no big deal for me, you know, because he was my bro. We were living together. But I thought it was nice that these fans would come in there and they embraced Guns N' Roses. A lot of them changed. Guns N' Roses changed a lot of their lives.
Yes.
And so Steven would come in and he would test the drums for me. I'd get him on to do sound check. And then I just recorded a sound check, him playing. And he did this almost every day at the house here. So when it was all said and done, I started putting together the records. And of course, I did the first 5, which is in the movie Sugar Box. We were on the soundtrack, Steven and I, on all those tracks. And he didn't even know it. We were watching the movie in Los Angeles. He goes, Chippy, who is that? I go, it's you jack.
That's great.
He played on so much great stuff. So when I was doing this album, I just went back to one of the tracks he was playing drums on, checking the drums. And I thought this would be a fantastic one to put on the record. And I know we go back a long ways. We're very close. I thought maybe this would fit the album as a finale. We're both big fans of Mott the Hoople, love Ian Hunter. And it was a strong track, very minimal overdubs, just Steven on drums, me on guitar and bass. A couple other cats that sat in with us. My old buddy did a spoken word thing on the bridge to the chorus. Okay. And it's just a great rock song, and it's a nice celebration. It's stuff that him and I can remember for the rest of our lives of recording these songs together. I thought, and it'd be special for the fans too as well. Without
a doubt. So one of the things I take from everything you're saying there's been a lot of talk about Steve in the last 5 years, not being in Guns N' Roses. Does he have the chops? Does he not have the chops? If he's recorded an album and a half with you, clearly he's got the chops still.
Yeah, listen, there's no doubt about it. He's got his own timbre. He comes from a different school. Adler, when we were living together, would always tell me that he grew up listening to Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons and Queen. Those were his 2 go-to bands. Of course, he loved bands like Stryper as well, because he loves bands that have beautiful voices and harmonies. He's very, very colorful.
Yep.
His drumming has always been a big part of the Guns N' Roses sound, especially in those early records, because he has his own swing, his own timbre. So, you know, he doesn't want to do it. He did those shows with Guns N' Roses under the assumption that if he did a couple of shows, he'll want to keep going and moving forward. After he did, it was almost like all those years of praying to God to get a chance to come back to Guns N' Roses, those prayers were fulfilled. That's all it is.
Right.
And he still wants to go out and play, but he told me, he goes, hey, Chippy, I just don't want to go out for a long tour. I just want to do the weekends. I go, why? He says, I miss the doggies. I get it. He loves his animals, and he's a big animal fan. He's got beautiful dogs there, and he's done it all before. He doesn't really want to go out and do the run like you and I do, where we get in a van or a tour bus and travel around the country for 2-3 months, seeing the whole world. I think he's already happy with what his accomplishments are and his legacy, and he'll continue to go out and work shows, but it'll just be the weekend warrior.
That's awesome. So I mean, in the past, you've worked with a lot of great names, whether it's Mike Portnoy, Jeannie Lane, C.Y. Young. Right? The list goes on and on and on. This album, you've got Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake, Night Ranger, TSO with you. How'd you connect with Joel? Because I think he's a great guitar player, personally.
It's funny you asked me that. My wife, it was her suggestion because she's got a solo record coming out.
Okay.
I'm not just saying it because it's my wife. It's fabulous. Okay. It's so. It's heavy, but it's melodic as well. It's a record that it's a potpourri of different sounds there. And Joel Hoekstra was playing on her record first.
Okay.
And he came down there, and I know Joel since I've been a kid, but we never played together. And he came down playing one of it's called St. Sybil Cemetery. That's the name of a record. And he was fabulous. I loved his guitar playing. I always have. And then I suggested, I'd like to get him on my record too. And she said, well, you know, he's been playing on my stuff. I don't want people to think I'm copying you. I go, it's more like I'm copying you, honey.
Sure.
So I called Joe and asked him to be kind enough to come down and play on some tracks. And he's a big fan of Enuff stuff. He always has been. And he played on, should have got him on the whole record actually, but he played on three songs. And he did it as a favor. I thought that was very nice of him. And he knows that I play with Billy Corrigan and Cheap Trick and the guys in Journey. And maybe he loved that legacy as well. But for more than anything, he heard the songs and he goes, this is great stuff, Chip. He goes, send me as much as you want. So that's why he's on the record. And I'm grateful to have him on there. He's getting ready to go out with the Whitesnake again. He's got a new band called The Iconic I think people will be excited when they hear the record and hear the different cats that are playing with me.
I agree.
And the different sides of what I do for a living. It's great. Anytime you get guys from White Snake and Trans-Siberian Orchestra to play with you, that's a win-win in my eyes. I'm very grateful for him and our friendship.
Yeah, I think one of the things to me that I've always thought with Enuff's Enuff and yourself is that you seem to have all the musicians are always in your corner. And you would have thought with all that backup that Enuff's Enuff would have been like at the stratosphere of Guns N' Roses or whatever, because it seems like every single artist you ask and they's like, we love Enuff's Enuff. We love their sound. I think you got lumped in with that hair metal scene at the end of the 80s, unfortunately, because you really weren't a hair metal band. But I think that definitely the musicians seem to really gravitate to your bands.
Well, I appreciate your kind words. And perhaps you're right, because I am friends with a lot of the musicians that are out there. And we still get these summer tours and we go out with Cheap Trick, Jackal, D. Snyder, Slaughter, Winger, Faster Pussycat. The list goes on and on. And all the guys are always coming over and hanging out with us.
Right.
I think that maybe one of the reasons is because we've always embraced the underdogs, and that's what we are. The hair metal term came from some guy in the office who failed miserably trying to do what we do, and now he's going to critique us.
Right, exactly.
Whatever you call us, it's hard to categorize enough stuff. It always has been, because we're a potpourri. In the old days, we came out, we went out with Badlands and with Def Leppard and Poison. We toured with everybody that would take us on.
Yep.
And no one knew what to call us, but we had long hair and we were colorful and flamboyant. MTV played those early videos. And once you do that, it kind of locks you and lumps you in with whatever you're going to be called.
True.
But we're no different than Guns N' Roses as far as that goes. When Guns came out, they were colorful and flamboyant as well.
Very true.
Pantera,
people forget that. Yes,
Pantera,
that's
same
true.
thing. We were label mates over at Atco Atlantic with them.
Yeah.
So listen, if you're just a footnote at the end of the day, little Steven says, embrace that. So that's where I stand. No,
without a doubt. And, to that point with the different styles and all that, to me, one of the songs I loved on the album was Three Way. First off, that title just grabs you instantly, Three Way. But to me, the song is a mix of, and I hate to say it, like Beatles, of course, Enuff's Enuff. There's a little bit of like that dirty, early Aerosmith feel to the song. I just thought the song was like really cool, that song. I appreciate that. I guess I unwittingly nicked from a bunch of cats that I can't. That's tell. Okay. I just know that that's a song that's not politically correct. That's for sure. Right, exactly. And once we have to put handcuffs on art, we'll have big troubles. Okay, from hip hop to rap to R&B to there's a lot of songs out there that can be considered sexist. I'm just writing fun, good, feel good songs. I'm not hurting anybody. No. It's about a celebration of life at the end of the day with all my material, and whatever trips your trigger, that's what we're going to go with. Okay. And songs are songs, and hopefully they have a life of their own. They're the embryo of the beginning of a relationship. Yep. I'm just hoping that people hear this record, and there's a lot of stuff to choose from. And I think the fans are pretty smart out there, and they can tell what's good. Yeah, and I agree. So you're going to be touring this summer with Enuff's Enuff? I certainly will. We've been touring this whole time. We've never stopped. Even during the shutdown, we were doing shows where we were playing live. The Monsters of Rock has a little thing where there's a live streaming show. We did that, and that was really good. And that gave us a lot of confidence when we were closed down as a country, because I seen over 30,000 people got under to watch that show of Enuff's Enuff for free. That was really special. Good for my ego, that's for sure. And then we were able to lock onto that Live Nation tour / Artists Worldwide actually booked it with Sullivan Big together. Good, it's good when these agencies get together and they split time trying to make things happen. That tour with Faster Pussycat was really good for us. We haven't stopped touring since then, to be honest with you. You did the Rock Islands a couple of 6 weeks ago, right? Yeah, in Key West. We came through, and we've been really working a lot. We got some good shows coming up with Ace Frehley and Peter Criss and that Creatures Festival. Creatures Fest, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping to be there. Got some stuff we're doing with Tora perhaps in the future, which will be nice. He wants to have us on some stuff with Tesla. That'd be kind of good. We'll see what happens. I know we'll be out there touring. The next big tour that I do know about is I'm going out in March with Steve Ramone and the Choir Boys from England in May. And then June, I'm out on the Glam Slam Metal
Jam tour with it's Enough's Enough, Pretty Boy Floyd, and the Midnight Devils. That'll be a lot of fun.
Nice.
And we'll go out the month of June. And we'll see what happens for July and August. But I know there's plenty of work out there. I had a great tour that was going to happen in the summer with Missing Persons, When in Rome, and Bow Wow Wow. That would have been fantastic. But it's got postponed and pushed back. And perhaps Missing Persons manager Howie Huberman will try to straighten all that stuff out, and we can go out on a tour, because that's something that I've always embraced, going out with bands that are off the beaten path of hard rock and heavy metal.
Sure.
Because I don't think we're a one-trick pony. We can play with those bands. And hey, I used to play the bass of Missing Persons, so it would make a lot of sense to go out there and do a tour like that.
Yep.
But you just don't know in this day and age what's the next thing is going to be. I just know we're going to be working. Got a great agency, and hopefully we can take these records and go out there and play them live, and for you brothers and sisters out there.
That sounds awesome. And will you do any of the songs off this new solo album while you touring with Enough's Enough?
Probably not. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do one-offs on my own. We haven't discussed that. Doing Enough's Enough shows is a difficult task. These aren't easy songs to play.
Yep.
It's always challenging every single night. The common denominator for Tori, Tony, and Dan and myself and Beasley, our TM, is to bring the show every single night and turn people on to these songs. And they want to hear the stuff that they know. I think that's most important. They want to hear the earlier records with, Strength and the first album. And,
right.
We work through the catalog, but it's a potpourri of different songs. And to throw something new in there might be a little bit challenging at this time, especially in light of we're only playing for an hour and a half every single night. But perhaps listen, I'll have the records at the booth, okay, at the merch booth every single night. And
that's the way to do it.
That's pretty exciting to me. I play the show in the old days, backstage, hanging out, burning the candle at both ends. I let my guys do that. I run right to the merch booth. I say hi to the fans who've been waiting all year to say hi and meet me and take a picture.
Yep.
That's what I do, and I'll have the records there. So I'll be getting that music out to you in some way and form.
Awesome. And will it be available in vinyl? Because I know like the Beatles thing sold out on vinyl like that. So will you have this on vinyl as well?
Absolutely, Mike. Frontiers and Nick and Mario and those cats and Elio, they've been good to us. They love the music, and they make sure that we have product for the shows. And let's not forget about the records that we put out that are coming out right now on Cleopatra Records. And the great Brian Pereira, he's got a lot of stuff out there. I think 7 comes out real soon. A fabulous album. If you get a chance to hear that one, folks. And then after that, Paraphernalia will be coming out. Awesome. Which is a fabulous record that features tracks by guys in Cheap Trick, Rick Nielsen most notably. Yep. Billy Corrigan's on that record, and JY from Styx also was on that. So it'll appear this year that Enuff Snuff is the hardest working band in rock and roll. And perhaps we hit the nail on the head right there. Whatever the case may be, I appreciate people wanting to get the music. That's what I do at the end of the day, and I thank you very much for your time out there and any of your kind words. It goes a long way in my heart.
Awesome. Well, Chip, I'm going to thank you for your time today. Is there anything else you want your fans to know about the album or the upcoming tour before we wrap this up?
Mike, the new record is called Perfectly Imperfect. It comes out March 18th. The first single, the official single at radio, will be Doctor, I'm Going Down, Can You Save Me? Co-written by Mancow, the old radio guy. And he's not that old, actually. He's living his life vicariously through me anyway, so who cares who drives that bus? Let's get to the picnic. And then, of course, the next record is, it'll come out in June or July. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's a fabulous hard rock record by Enough's Enough. And you'll find us, anything you want to find out information-wise, you can go to enuffzenuff.com, enuffzenuff.com, or Facebook, and then you can look at us on social media, Chips Enough at Twitter or Chips Enough at Instagram. We're on all those websites. It's pretty easy to find us. On that note, prayers out to Ukraine people and everybody in Europe going through these tough times. Yes. God bless you all.
Yes. Thank you, Chip, so much. I hope to see you at Creatures Fest, and we'll certainly see you on the road in 2022.
Always good seeing you, Mike. God bless you and your family as well.
Thank you. All right. Take it easy, Chip. Talk soon.
Peace, bro.
Later.
All righty. There you have it. I'd like to thank Chip once again for joining me on my show. It's always a lot of fun, Chip talking. Thanks so much. Certainly you fans are going to want to check out his new album, Perfectly Imperfect, coming out March 18th via Frontiers Music, including guest appearances from Steven Adler, Joel Hoekstra, Dax Nielsen, and more. You guys are going to really love this album, promise you. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.